Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 21st Century Writer Podcast, where we talk about writing, publishing, and most of all, the mindset stuff you need to flourish as an author in the 21st century. I'm Hannah Steenbach, and my partner in podcasting is...
I'm Diane Patterson, an author and entrepreneur living out here in California.
And I am a writer, creativity coach, and EFT practitioner, and we're starting our weekly daily podcast. Oh my goodness, a weekly podcast by just talking about what's up with us. So what's up with you?
Well, this week I did a lot of research into microphones and audio mixing, and it's really amazing what you can do with audio software that you can get for free, but I will not bore anybody here with that. I also did writing on a side project, mostly because I'm a little blocked on my main project. So I go to work on a side project, which I feel freer about because I don't feel that there's as much pressure on it. And what do you know? I can do 5,000 words on that, no problem. Interestingly, the level of pressure and words seem to be inverse ratio. Yes.
Inversely related? I don't know.
Yes, inverse ratio. So interestingly enough, so what else has been going on? So yeah, so I feel like the writing pump has kept going. And yes, that should be a conversation for some week. One of the productivity tips I use to get stuff done is this thing called magic dots, which is not a kind of drug, but is in fact just a little tool that you use for keeping yourself going. And we will discuss that some week, but it's very, very useful. And you, what have you been up to?
I followed the same strategy. I've been writing on a side project, which I really don't want to talk about. It's been fun, and it's been keeping me writing.
Whatever, yes, whatever keeps the fingers on the keyboard. Absolutely.
It's my productivity tool, and it helped me pump out 900 words in 30 minutes this morning. So I'm really happy about that. I'm almost done with my current pressure project.
Your current pressure project?
Well, I have pressure. I have a project with.
Oh, that you have to get. Oh, yeah. I know how that goes.
I know. And I'm basically on a deadline. I really needed to finish it like last week to get it out to my beta readers. It's scheduled for release in August, and I need time for better reading editing and getting it off to my formatting people who will have to read it in order to create a cover. Fortunately, it's just a novella, so not too hard.
Fortunately.
So, yes, that's what I've been up to. I've also been taking some time off from my day job. I have overtime, and I've been playing with some semi-precious stones and their energy and how it affects my energy.
Yeah, you mentioned something about that. I don't know anything about that world.
It's not something that I'm really familiar with, and for a long time I didn't believe in it, but I've been feeling the results, so it might be worth it. So I'm going to show off this ugly block of black tourmaline that I got.
Oh.
That's a semi-precious stone. You usually find it, and it's crumbling a little, so I keep it on a bubble wrap thing.
Yeah.
You usually find that polished in the shape of pearls and necklaces and all that.
Right.
And it's supposed to clear the energy, and I've been actually putting it under my bed. I have a day bed, so I can put it under the head part. And I've been sleeping a whole lot better with it. So yeah, I kind of like the result.
Were you the person I was discussing placebos with? Because I've been reading this book, and I mentioned it last week, called The Organized Mind by Daniel Levitin. And
yes.
And I think that's where I was reading about this, but they've done studies where in every time they do a drug study, they have a group that is taking a placebo.
Yes. Or that,
and they to see the effectiveness of the placebo versus the effectiveness of the actual drug.
Yes.
Well, they've done studies where they tell people that the drug they're receiving is a placebo. They're like, yes, here is a sugar pill. And even when the recipient knows it's a placebo, it still works. I found this completely fascinating for the power of the mind.
It is totally. I really think it's mind over body,
yeah,
mind over matter. And I mean,
so I mean, I don't know anything about stones and what effect they're supposed to have, but it doesn't matter whether the stone is actually having this effect or not. If it makes you sleep better, awesome. Frankly,
exactly.
Awesome.
I don't particularly care. And
you only need to have a couple of nights. I have been waking up at 3:30 in the morning for the past week or two.
Yeah, that's
and I'm like,
horrible.
Why 3:30? And why is this happening? Where I'm awake for an hour at night.
Yeah, it could be.
So yeah, I'm thinking about looking into this black tourmaline thing. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun, and I mean, hey, if that's what makes EFT work, I take it. I mean, I get so many good effects. I don't care if it's placebo or not. If it helps,
there great. Was there's a hypnotherapist I know who argues that EFT is just hypnosis. And I'm like, well, great, because I know hypnosis works. So awesome, another way of doing it.
But they're comparable on a level, but I think EFT still has a different avenue than hypnosis.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, that's details. It works. So.
Yeah.
But we were here to talk.
Oh, what are we here to discuss? We're here to discuss writing intuition. Well, that's kind of a lead in to intuition. Intuition, not something that you can measure or say, here it is, we have found it. But it exists, particularly with writing. So take it away. This was. We can each discuss our history with what we describe as our writing intuition, and then get into discussing more about it.
Yes, I have lots of opinions on the writing intuition. I could talk about that for ages, but we won't. So how did you find that you have writing intuition or a writing bone or whatever?
The first time that I would describe something as being specifically writing intuition was I was working on a project and I went to get feedback on it. And I said, and a little voice inside my head said, okay, here's the issue with this project. If somebody goes off in the tall weeds and tells you that it's X, Y, or Z, you don't need to listen to them. The issue with this project is A and B, and that's where you need the person, the feedback to concentrate on. And I went, huh? Because so often with writing projects, I was like, I don't know. What should I do? What is this? And it's like, nope. The issue with this project is A and B. If they start talking about X, Y, and Z, they're not the feedback for you. And it was so clear in my head that I went, oh, okay. And another time I was working on a project. I should be more specific about these, but and a character walked into the room and I'm like, okay, what is this about? And it turned out to be a completely vital character for the rest of the book. And I went, I had not planned that, but clearly whatever my inner writer had known that was going to be crucial for the rest of the story. And I said, okay. So things like that, I don't always accept them wholeheartedly, like right off the bat. I think that they have to often prove, when characters just show up out of nowhere. I have to judge, is this an interesting thing, or is this a way of wasting time until I get back to what I should be doing? And it's hard. It's hard to, but you have to develop your intuition as to which one it is,
Yes.
and that takes effort. That takes judging your work as this is important for the project, and this is me. No, I won't say wasting time. Me doing a writing exercise that is not vital to the main project. Put it that way. So
I would say you were exploring the world, but
and that's what we call reframing, people. That's
that's my job.
Yeah. You haven't done something wrong. You've been exploring the world.
I mean, it does take time, but it gives you a deeper understanding of your story. So I don't think it's ever completely wasted, even if you end up cutting it out and then putting it aside. So.
Yeah. It is part of the writer's intuition, and this is something that I also mentioned last week, is what Hemingway called the bleep detector. You have to be the first line of defense and offense to your own work. You have to have a good sense of what you have. And because if you always turn that power over to other people, you're never going to develop as a writer. And I see this so often. Like, do you ever hang out on the K boards? The Kindle boards? Yeah, I used to hang out there a lot, and it's gotten more difficult recently. Let's put it that way. But a thing that I've seen there a lot, and I see this in every writer community, is writers who start out with, can't we just find an editor who will fix this and put it all together for us? And it's like, no, that's actually your job. Yep. The editor serves a very specific and important function. Don't get me wrong, editors. But your job as a writer is to shape that material and figure out what's important and what's not important, because you will come across editors who say, get rid of this whole thing with Eddie and the motorcycle. And you're like, you know what? No, that's actually Eddie and the motorcycle is important to the story. Your vision is not the best one for this story. You have to be the one in charge, and you have to have an understanding of your story and know intuitively what's right for it, even if you're not sure exactly why that is. If you can't state why it is, but you know it's important.
That's the intuition, because the intuition talks to us in emotions. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
It's very basic. It's either it feels good or it doesn't feel good. And it doesn't feel good. If you read through your story and you run into places that don't feel good, that's your writing intuition saying, hi, there's something wrong. And I totally believe this is essential to be an effective writer. I mean, you can rewrite a story 10 times and make it better every time and get closer to what grips you. But unless you have this connection to a story, basically it's the writing intuition. Unless you really have the storytelling inside you, and I believe all of us humans have it in obviously probably in varying degrees, but we all have it. and it can be trained. But this is what gives you the ability as author to see if a story works or if it doesn't, and what you have to change. This is the warning system. It's your internal guidance system, your GPS, your story GPS, and I think it's quite possible to find it, to develop it, and to use it efficiently.
Well, what's your story of developing it or realizing that you had it?
When I started writing my first story, I was a complete pantser. Completely. I went into the story with just one single scene in my mind, and I wrote 30 pages to get my character into that scene. And I love the Terry Pratchett quote that really speaks to me. Terry Pratchett says, if you start out a new story, it is like entering a mountain. It's like coming over a pass and entering a mountain valley that is covered in fog. You have the mountains on the, marking the side of the valley, but you don't see what's inside. And you only uncover what's inside the story by walking into the village, into the valley, and basically walking into the fog. And the more you walk into it, the more the fog retreats and gives you, reveals what's in the valley. And that's the long way of quoting him. He had a perfect sentence to say that. But I love the imagery of this, and my very first story, which I called in German Das Schwert des Zwergenmeisters, and translate to the Dwarven Master's Sword. And actually, that's the second one. I started with the second novel in the series because that's where the scene happens. And I just followed whatever felt good. I would get up in the morning and walk to work and think. I have a 20 minutes walk. And during that walk, I would think about what I wanted to do next. This whole thing developed literally scene by chapter. I was writing it linearly, which is kind of something I don't always do anymore. And I really, I wouldn't know in the morning what I would write in the evening. And I was just following this inner guidance system. And I've been through those two novels several times. They still have the ability to pull me in completely. There are basically a bunch of adventures with a slight overarching theme. And I'm surprised I managed to write something like that basically out of the starting gate. But before I did that, I have been reading extensively. I've been reading everything I could put my hands on since the age of 6. I mean, I could read before I went to school. And I was chided for reading too much in 2nd grade because I was using slightly outdated language that I was picking up from a novel series. And so that was kind of fun. I was reading everything. I was reading mysteries. I was reading Agatha Christie. I was reading anything. And I never stopped reading. I still read a lot. I think I read 5 or 6 books a month. Usually, unless I'm really deep into writing, then I can't. Then I can't read. But
I've discovered what my problem. I'm laughing at you reading so much. I've discovered what my problem with reading so much is these days because we have this. We really used to have the stacks of books. We've gotten rid of boxes and boxes of actual books. Is that I'm reading so much during the day online that by the time I go to bed at night, it's like, oh my God, I don't want to read anymore. Like, what was I doing before that I wasn't reading all day online? But
it's true. I have an evening ritual. I don't manage to do it every night, but I really like to power everything down. Energy demands that I power down the computer during the night. And so I power down everything, and I sit down in that armchair behind me, and I have, I don't know, a glass of wine or something, just some orange juice or whatever. And I sit down and I read for half an hour. And it could be an actual book, it could be a nonfiction book, it could be on the Kindle. But I really like that time to, it's basically cool down time from the computer. because I'm on the computer all day. So I like that. It really takes me down from gathering information all the time. It's true. We read so much online. We react to it all the time, and so reading a book in whichever shape or form, reading a book is an exercise in focus, and it's much more. I mean, I really think you can find and develop your writing intuition by reading a lot, by looking what other authors do, by I don't mean go and analyze it, but just listen to your feelings when you read a scene that really grips you, and then kind of step back a little and see how they do it. You don't have to go through it paragraph by paragraph. Just watch what other authors do in the stories that really fascinate you. And I read some authors that pull me completely in. They're so good with their language and their whole storytelling. It's really hard to step out and watch what they're doing. And there are others where I can read a story and then see, okay, this is exposition. This is a character that's going to be important. This is an object that's going to turn up again. This is, here's the motivation for the bad guy. So sometimes it's so obvious.
Well, how do you distinguish between writing intuition and developing your story sense, or would you say they are the same thing? Like, reading a lot of stuff definitely gives you a way of judging how well a story is flowing, or even for the bigger parts of the story structure, like, oh, we're getting to the big climax here. Okay. But I'm not sure that I would describe that so much as writing intuition, or maybe I would. Now I'm thinking about this.
I think it's the basis, and once you start telling your own stories, you need to tap into that storytelling knowledge.
Right.
But I think it's taking it a step further. It is adding a creative element to it that you don't have that in storytelling knowledge. You need to add this creative element to it that brings out your own ideas, and I think the combination of that is your writing intuition. Because, I mean, like you said, there's the character that shows up in the bar out of the blue and turns out to be essential to a story, and you can't plan that. And that isn't part of storytelling knowledge. It's part of what's going on, like in the back of your mind, where a part we can't really control is developing the story. I've had it happen all the time. I mean, it's like it happens in every story that I write, that a character actually comes in and twists the entire story. Just happened in the one I'm writing. The main character is a prince called Orlan, and he is in trouble with the Dragon Court. And he has been called to the Dragon Court because he kind of got himself a dragon when he wasn't supposed to. And and there's a really nasty woman who's the dragon master, the head of the dragon court, and she is really trying to push her agenda and putting the pressure on him to get him demoted. He's the crown prince, and a king must not have a dragon. So she has good grounds of pushing him out of the line and getting the younger sister onto the throne. And so he gets there, still fairly mangled from an assassin attempt, and so they have this discussion on whether he has a bond with this dragon or not, and whether they kill dragons that don't have a bond. So a lot of it is hanging in the balance, and he suddenly turns the tables and accuses her of treason because he does have some evidence that she actually sent the assassin that attacked him. And so he suddenly twists this entire court situation, and I'm going to spoil a little bit here. spoiler my story a little bit. So I end up with a situation where the plot is completely derailed. My villain is basically out of the picture.
Yeah.
And the story isn't done. And I'm like, what the
Yeah.
heck I do?
I ran into one of these on my current project, which is part of the reason that it is so late right now. Was I was like, I had everything planned out, and then the main character is having a scene with somebody, and they said, "Well, how are you so sure that so and so didn't kill X?" And she says, "Because I think I did." It's like, oh, what? Now, as it turned out, spoiler alert, she doesn't really think she did. But I had to go back and explain that because it totally felt right for the scene. And I said, what do you mean you think you? So I've had to go back and like restructure the whole backstory for what happened up until X died. I'm like, oh, you're giving me a headache. Why don't these things occur to me when I'm planning the book? So if you happen to be surprised when something happens in one of my books, trust me, I was even more surprised when it happened.
And I really think it's a good thing because it'll surprise the reader.
But there's a difference, though. I have definitely come up with scenes where it's like, and then, you know, ninjas rush into the room, and it's like, that was a surprise. That spoiler alert, that didn't actually happen in one of my books. But, and I'll be like, you know what? No. Yes, that was surprising, and I enjoyed writing that scene, but no.
Yeah.
And the voice inside of me is the one that says, you know what? That doesn't work.
Exactly. Exactly. This is how my novella series actually started because I was writing this novel with 3 different timelines, and I loved all my 3 main characters, and they kind of developed nicely, but then I realized I couldn't possibly get those timelines straight. And that was my writing intuition saying, hey, stop, something's not right here. And I've learned to really trust that signal. If you run into a full stop with your story when you're writing it, chances are there is something wrong. I think we talked about that in the last podcast too a little bit. But chances are something is not working well, and it's your inner GPS telling you, wait, wrong turn somewhere.
Yeah.
And then it's your job as author to sit down, have a talk with your characters maybe, or look at the plot and reread and figure out where the whole thing derailed and find a solution. And my solution was to take that clumsy, convoluted novel project and just tear it apart and make it into 3 different novellas. And then I created the backstory for that, and suddenly I ended up with another bunch of novellas, which is why the series is now up to 8
Sweet.
novellas.
So there are sometimes rules of thumb that can actually serve you well, and one of the ones that I've heard a lot for screenplays, and of course it can be applied to any structure, is that if Act 3, which is the end of your novel, your screenplay, your story, isn't working, the problem is in Act 1.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's the setup, because Act 3 is all payoff. So if the payoff isn't working, don't keep massaging it. Look at the setup. That's a free tip for your intuition. How do you experience your intuition? Is it sometimes it's a voice in my head? Usually it sounds like my voice, but I didn't ask it to join the conversation. And sometimes it's a feeling in my solar plexus. No. Go back.
Yeah, I often get a certain reluctance. Like I open the file, I read the last paragraph, and I'm like, no, I don't want to continue with this. So that's one of the signals. And the other signal when I'm on the right track is I'm getting really, really excited. I think about the story when I go to bed. That happens a lot. I go to bed and I kind of let my mind wander and think about the story, and then when I get excited, I know there's good stuff coming up. And I wrote 900 words in 30 minutes this morning, only because I thought about the whole thing yesterday and what I could do to make it exciting again. I mean, I had them all camped out on the island in the rain, and the dragons had their wings overlapping, so everyone was dry and happy. And I thought, this is boring. I need to get some action back into the story. And I had the idea last night, and I wrote it out this morning. And it turned out 900 words. Nice thing. I got them moving. And I've been stuck on that for about 10 days. I mean, I had them stuck on the beach for 10 days.
Oh, wow.
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah.
I absolutely hate it. And I was plotting.
That would definitely be a call for some ninjas running in. Get stuff moving.
Something up. That's another tip. But yeah, I got them moving, and the excitement that I felt when I had that idea, and the king actually gave some orders that really made a whole lot of sense. He thought up more strategy. I mean, he's dying. He's really in a bad shape. So they're on a rescue run with him. So he is really trying to help his son create good stuff. I mean, even if he's no longer the crown prince. So he had some orders for his son, and that got everything rolling. And I hate having to wait that long for a new idea, but it's basically that's how I experience my writing intuition. It gives me a warning sign in the shape of feeling really blocked and resistant to the story, which basically tells me you need to think about it, you need to rethink the plot, you need to figure out something exciting that should happen next. And when I get excited, and that's I can feel it physically in my body. I mean, it's like my whole body feels lifted and happy and warm and excited. That's definitely the sign for wow, you're on the right track. Get writing.
Well, so how do you, I'm looking at the list of things here. How do you find is the best way of increasing it? I mean, just writing a lot so that you hear it more?
Yeah, writing a lot would
for me, I find not just writing a lot, but writing a lot in different genres. Like recently, this side project that I've been working on is something completely different than anything I've written before. So A, I feel freer, and B, my writing intuition is having more fun.
Yeah.
Going, let's do this. But my writing, not critic, the story guide, I think, is like, okay, so here are the posts of the structure that we have to hit. And the writing intuition is like, yes, but we can be free and hit them in any way. And I think that's also really important. If you're just doing the same genre, the same story over and over again, I think you may be squashing your inner sense. That would be my advice. If it's not working, try something completely different.
Yes, I mean, I write mainly fantasy, which means I have a lot more freedom with my different worlds, and I can do really weird stuff. And I'm trying other things. I started a space opera thing last year with Nano. That was a lot of fun, and it showed me a lot of limitations that I have regarding space knowledge. So it's going to be space opera rather than science fiction. And I did something really weird the other day when I was unhappy with my stories, and before I actually got the idea of separating my third novella into two different stories again. I'm really learning to separate out the plots. And I did something I've never done before. I actually wrote a little bit of erotica,
Yeah.
which is which is that was quite a stretch. But I think we do need to stretch ourselves and,
Yeah.
do different things.
Yeah, I actually started working on something that I would, actually I've been working, it's a side project I've had from way back that I go back to and write a little bit on every so often. But it's so different from everything else that I've written that for the first time in my life, I would actually put a pseudonym on it going, I'm not sure that this is me. But since I work on it so slowly, I don't think we need to worry about that showing up anytime soon.
Neither will my other side stuff. But yeah, but it's stretching, and I really think you need to do both. You need to keep reading. I think authors that stop reading stop in. How can I say that? I think we all need outside inspiration once in a while, and if you
Yeah.
never read other novels, if you don't read in your genre and outside of your genre, you will start to
You can always tell someone who isn't a writer who isn't a reader.
yes.
I really believe that you can.
So yeah, I think you should keep reading, even if you're writing. You should really keep reading. You should look around and see what others are doing, and really get your inspiration. And I mean, hey, you can get your inspiration from TV games. You can get it from computer games. I mean, there's computer games.
I wrote a 40,000 word novella inspired by a TV show I could not stand after one episode. I'm like,
Awesome.
this is crap. I can do this better. And there I was off to the races.
I wrote a fan fiction story about about Star Trek. It's in German, so you won't see it pop up anywhere either. But I was so fed up by those fan fiction tropes of getting everyone into bed with each other.
Yeah.
And I wrote a story which isn't canon because Generations came out, but I wrote a story about the last flight of the Enterprise before they all get retired and they have some new cadets on board. And of course they pick up a distress call and things go downhill after that. And I was really poking fun at all these fan fiction tropes.
Yeah, and it's important to use that to gauge how you feel about. I mean, who knows? Maybe you would find yourself writing it, going, "Oh, this is why fan fiction tropes exist." That would certainly make the story a lot easier. I think. Well, when you start a project, sorry about that. That was my treadmill tread making noise. I use my intuition to find projects to work on.
Yes.
But then I use my, how would I put this? My finely developed sense of story structure, finely developed, listen to me. My sense of, okay, if this is the beginning, where do we go from here? Because I don't think you can use the writing intuition to just go la 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 la. Let's see where this goes. I read stuff like that too, and I'm like, yeah, no. I'm glad that your writer's intuition revealed this to you, but you gotta take control and make a story out of it.
And I think that is part of a really developed writing intuition, not only creating scene after scene after scene, sort of sending your characters through a computer game until they meet the end boss. I think if you really have fed your storytelling knowledge with all these books and books and books and stories, you know that there needs to be motivation, there needs to be conflict, there needs to be a reason why your character does what he does and why your villain does what she does. And I think all of this feeds into this storytelling machine or computer or brain or whatever we have that I like to call writing intuition. Because even though I didn't know what I was doing, I created this story arc for my very first novel. It started out just, you know, this young knight walking through the forest, being picked up by a nice trader because his feet are sore, and they get attacked by raiders, and things are really dreadful for a while, and then they rescue each other, and in the end they track down the raiders and they bring them to justice, and all of them grow in the story. And this is not something I planned. I mean, I was a newbie. I had never written a novel before, and that thing turned out, and I think it clocked in at 150,000 words or something. And epic fantasy, whatever. Yeah. And I knew intuitively that this whole thing needs to have development in there. It needs to have the challenge of the characters. It needs to have, I mean, they create a relationship, and in the end, my hero and heroine ride off in the sunset, and that kind of nice thing. But I mean, they're not officially a pair, but you know the way things are going. And
after 150,000 words, maybe.
I even created a series arc over 5 different novels, and I didn't do that knowing. I had not read a single writing guide. I was staying away from all of these. I refused to reading that kind of book because I wanted to create my own way of storytelling and create my own world, and I didn't want anyone to tell me how to do it. So I was really very much into my own writing intuition and storytelling. And I think, I mean, I wrote 2 novels, and I actually got an agent with those 2. I mean, he never sold them, but an agent decided they were good enough. So I think I got the storytelling okay, even without having any background about the 3-act structure. I had no idea about that. I just knew.
Well, certainly reading a lot will help immensely with that. It will give you an idea that when someone shows up, that it had better pay off at some point down the line. You might not know what that is. You might have to find that out. But as you develop your story sense, if you have somebody show up and that's it, you get Tom Bombadil.
Yes.
Okay, you get Tom Bombadil, which I'm sure that there are people out there who love that there's this side trip off with Tom Bombadil, but come on, in terms of a tightly woven structure, that doesn't work. And so when the writing intuition says, what would be interesting is if a bunch of ninjas ran in here, that might be interesting, but your writing brain had better start working on what the payoff is for that, or what the explanation is for that. Absolutely. Further on down the line. I guess that's the long-winded way of saying, unfortunately, even with the developing your inner voice, telling you about these things, going, yes, this is the direction you should go, or maybe these 2 should fall in love. There's still hard work to be done.
Oh yeah, I'm not denying.
Boy, I keep hoping that elves are going to show up in the night and finish my story for me. It just doesn't work. So frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, it's like part of the work is actually sitting at the keyboard and typing, but another part of the work is really happening in the mind when you plot the story, regardless how you work your way into a story. If you plot it, if you pants it, if you make something in between, a lot of the time, and it's not visible, a lot of the time it's work in the head. Yeah. I was tempted to say headology, but that's not it. That's what we're talking about. Oh. That's Terry Pratchett speak for yes. Mindset.
Well, yeah, the version of that quote I've heard is having a map, and you can only see so far ahead of you, but the map's eventually supposed to bring you cross country. Yes. So so I was looking at the clock. We can wrap up here, and then Hannah was going to do an EFT tapping session on developing your writer's intuition. So if you are interested in that, hang out until after the ending here. If not, then, well, let's do the ending, and then you'll hear the ending music, at least if you're listening to this on iTunes, and then you can turn it off. So just to let you know, there is an EFT tapping session coming up.
Yeah, just a quick tapping round to help you trust and develop your writing intuition.
So next week, we're going to talk about developing your characters, character sheets, interviewing your characters, casting your characters with Hollywood actors or Bollywood or European actors that we've never heard of. I mean, well, who will eventually come to Hollywood and work in an American accent, but that's not here or there. My name is Diane Patterson.
And I'm Hannah Steinbach.
And thank you for joining us for another edition of the 21st Century Writer Podcast. And we will see you next week when we will discuss characters. Bye. Tschüss.
Tschüss.
Okay, I will mute my microphone now, and Hannah will take over for the where.
Let's call it a tapping round.
Unfortunately, my mouse has decided. There we go. For the. Okay, I can't. There we go. I can now mute my mic. I will mute my mic, and Hannah will take over.
All right. And I love it when you repeat my sentences, because that gives me the time frame for the tapping round, which is awesome. So I'll just watch you and I'll tap with and for you. And everyone on the video, on the podcast, this is a good way of going to the video and watching me do it and just repeat what I do. I'll try to call out the tapping points. I keep forgetting that because I really work in visual. But I'll try to call out the tapping points so you can follow what I'm doing. This is going to be about your writing intuition and your confidence in using it. Because we're the doubting kind. Anyway, let's start on the side of the hand. I need to really watch that video. Tap the side of the hand and repeat after me. Even though I really don't know if I have this writing intuition, and if I can even trust it. But I do have the story inside me, and I want to tell it. So I'm okay the way I am. And I choose to grow my writing intuition now. Even though I so want to tell my story. But I'm so insecure about it. And I'm not sure if I'm doing it the right way. Everyone says something different. But I'm okay, and I'm a good writer. And I choose to lean into that writing intuition and to trust it from now on. Even though I really, really want to tell my story. And I feel so overwhelmed by all the writing guides. And all those expectations out there. I'm a good writer. And I choose to trust my writing intuition now. Okay, let's go into the tapping round. First point is the inner eye point, and I'm going to get a tapping chart out there for you. I really want to tell my story. I'll try my point. But there's so much information out there. Under the eye. So many people telling me how to tell a story. Under the nose. I feel so confused about how to tell a story. Chin point. And I have a feeling I will never be able to do it well. Collarbone points. One under the one collarbone point. What collarbone and the other underneath the other one. I find it so hard to find my own writing voice. And going back, I'm going to leave out 2 points that are really hard to describe. So I'm going back to the inner eye point. But what if I could create my own writing intuition? Outer eye point. What if I have that storytelling knowledge inside me? I can look at what other authors do. Under the nose. I can see what I love. Sorry, I got confused there. I can observe what I love when they do it. Chin point. I can really take a good look at stories that I adore. And I can learn that. Oh, back to the inner eye. I can give that knowledge to my writing brain. And I can let my writing brain compute what I need for my story. Under the eye, I can learn to trust my feelings about my story. Under the nose, and I can accept it's a process. Chin point. I choose to let my writing intuition grow now. Collarbone points. I choose to trust my writing intuition. And back to the inner eye point, final round. I allow myself to trust my writing intuition. I choose to feel the feelings that I have about my story. Under the eye, I choose to listen to those feelings because they tell me essential things. And I choose to accept the guidance of my writing intuition. It's a wonderful gift to have that intuition. Collarbone points, and I choose to use it from now on. This feels awesome. All right, that's the tapping round for today. And I'm going to say bye-bye. See you next week, where we'll talk about characters and development of them and the psychology behind conflict and storytelling and, all the stuff we need to have people running around in our stories rather than cardboard. So have a good time and see you next week.